first question comes in from Damien here. Hi there, Damien. Thanks for the question. So Damien says, I'm a first-time landlord and hence I need some guidance. I found a tenant and he is asking if it's okay to paint the house and also to change the carpets. He's willing to pay for this from his own pockets. I was anyway planning to steam clean the carpets but not repaint, unsure of any downside of the tenant making these changes. Thanks in advance. All right then, Damien. Well, thanks for the question there, and congratulations on becoming a landlord for the first time. It's quite an interesting experience when you're going out there to build a property portfolio, if that's your plan, and buying a property to rent out. There can be a certain sense of nervousness, and if you're anything like me, Damien, when I bought my first buy-to-let property, I'll never forget driving past it literally once a week at least, just to make sure it was still there. And that seems crazy because the house was built in about 1950. Obviously, it stood there for a good number of years before I bought it, but those are the sorts of things that go through your mind when you're first starting out in this journey. So welcome to the joys of becoming a landlord. To answer your question in terms of the tenant, first of all, I would talk to them about what are their expectations in terms of the length of time they want to be in the property for. And if they are talking short term, as in, we're only going to be here for 6 to 12 months, I would be reluctant to let them decorate the property. If they talk to you about the fact they've got friends and family in the area and they've grown up in the area for a long period of time, I would almost be tempted to give them the opportunity to do the property up to their taste. I'll give you an example. I think it was the second or third property that I bought as a landlord. And we did a kind of viewing open day because at that time there was a number of tenants that were looking for a property. And we had a lovely couple come and have a look at that property called Steve and Zara. They were a super couple. They were just desperate to get their hands on a property in the area because their family literally lived around the corner. Their brother lived, I think it was about 4 or 5 doors away. Their mum and dad lived, a street away, round the corner, and they were just a super couple, so polite, so lovely. And what actually happened was I reduced the rent in order to get those tenants into the property because I had a really good feeling about them. I knew that they would be the right sort of tenants, and we were using a letting agent at the time. I should point that out. But I decided I would do the viewings because we were there just finishing off a few bits of work on the property. And yes, Steve and Zara came along. I met them. I just fell in love with them, if that's the right phrase to use. They were wonderful tenants. We actually dropped the rent by 25 quid a month because that's what they said was the ceiling on their affordability, and I had no reason to disbelieve them. And they asked me if it was possible to do the property up, and I said, well, yeah, look, we've done it magnolia and white, which was fairly standard for us at that particular time, and yeah, gave them sort of almost free rein to decorate the property. The only stipulations I would have in this sort of situation, Damien, would be to not use black. Okay, as a paint covering, especially on ceilings. I have seen houses with black ceilings, believe it or not, or purple ceilings, and it's not very attractive. And it takes an awful lot of paint to cover it up if you decide to then redecorate afterwards. So I would certainly say no to black, and I would certainly say that your skirting boards need to remain as white gloss, mainly because they're a lot easier to clean over time. Those would be my stipulations, and I'd also say the ceilings need to be white emulsion. But if people want to put up an accent wall, that's quite familiar. An accent wall is 3 walls in the room are the same color, and then one is either covered with wallpaper or done a different color paint for whatever reason. So I'm happy to let them do that. That you also need to be careful that there's certain paints that are what's called textured, and it's almost like they've got sand or grit in the paint, and they put it on, it comes up like a rough finish on the walls. I would certainly not recommend that the tenant uses that because, again, if you then decide that you want a smooth, flat wall, then you need to almost replaster the wall. It's a real devil to get off. In terms of doing the floor coverings and that sort of thing, again, I would say you're happy to let them do that, provided that they employ somebody who's professional to do that. And you might ask them to send you a copy of the quote from a particular carpet fitter in the area who's prepared to come in and do the changing of the carpets for them. Just because you don't want people trying to do a DIY job on laying carpets, and that could be more cost for you when you go in, because if they move out, then you've got to go in and then rip up those carpets and start again. So that's what I'd be tempted to do on that front. And just to wrap up that story with Stephen and Zara, Damien, the point of letting a tenant do the work on the properties because that they will stay with you long term. Now, from memory, I think those guys were with me for 8 years, maybe 9, off the top of my head. And when they came to move out, the reason they had to move was because they were having children. I jokingly said to him, "You've set up a baby factory over there," because every time I spoke to him, there seemed to be another child on the way. But they had, I think it was like 3 children, and they needed to get more space. So they said, "Do you have another property we can move into? Because you're such a good landlord." And at the time, I hadn't. And so reluctantly, he said, we've got to move out. And his words to me were, "I feel like I'm stabbing you in the back because you've been such a good landlord." And I said, "Steve, don't you worry about it. Feel free to move on. No animosity from my side. You've been amazing. You've looked after the property. You've done everything I could ever ask for." And then, bless him, he moved out. He found a property to move to, and he moved out. And then I got a panic phone call the following morning from him saying, he was virtually in tears, this guy, bless him. And he said, "The property we've moved into, we didn't see it at the time, but when we viewed it initially, we didn't realize that it had got black mold." And you probably, if you've been keeping an eye on the news, you'll know that this poor kid recently just passed away as a result of, well, it's alleged that he passed away as a result of black mold growth within the property. And as a consequence, he said, "We can't let our children live in this property. Do you mind if we move back in to your property?" And I said, "Look, Steve, I've got no problem with that at all. Look, I trust you. Get on with it if that's what you want to do. I'll ring the agent now. They can meet you down at the property. You can move back in straight away." And he said, "The problem I've got is that I don't have the money now because I paid a month's rent and a month's deposit up front for this other property. I don't have the money to pay you for your rent this month. I don't know what to do." I said, "Look, Steve, move in, get yourself settled. We'll sort it out in due course." And true to his word, he sorted it all out. He paid me the rent that was owing, and then I think it was about 3 or 4 months later, he came across another property. And the point of me sharing that story with you, Damien, is that being a landlord is can have quite a lot of joys to it when you're dealing with nice people and you're helping people establish themselves in a home, and they're getting settled in an area that they like with friends and family. And it's not. I think there's this misconception by a lot of people that landlords tend to be hard nosed and they're only in it for the money and all the rest of it. I really enjoyed having those guys in one of my properties because I've virtually never heard from them. They would just get on with it. They looked after it. If there was a problem, we got it sorted, and that was the deal that worked really, really well for both parties. So do what you can to help your tenant, get them settled, get them sorted. And if they're, as I say, they're prepared to spend the money, it may even improve the value of your property, because I have been in some properties in the past where the tenant's actually done a really good job of renovating it. And you walk around, you think, actually, I wouldn't mind living in myself, sort of thing, So they've done a really good job. So hope that helps, Damien. Good luck with it all. And hopefully you'll get on well with your tenants and they'll look after it for you and they'll stay with you long term, because ultimately your biggest enemy as a landlord is void periods. And nobody really talks about this when you're getting into investing, but a void period is very costly to you as a landlord. And just quickly to wrap this point up, the reason why void periods are so costly is because you're not only losing the rental income. So if your rent, say, £600 a month, you're not only losing that, but you're the one having to pay for the mortgage, and that might be 300 quid a month. You're also having to pay for your utility bills whilst the property's empty, and the council tax and all that sort of thing. So all of this adds up. And of course, the biggest issue, depending upon where the property is leaving it vacant for a month or however long it takes you to get a tenant in there exposes the property to the risk of things like theft. And what might you steal from an empty property but the boiler or the copper pipes that run the central heating system? And I have seen properties in the past, Damien, just to give you a quick update on this, where rogues have gone in and they've stripped the boiler, they've stripped the copper piping, they haven't bothered to turn the water off, because why would they? They're in there as criminals, and for whatever they're going to get, a scrap value for a bit of copper, 30, 40 quid maybe, the property's been flooded because the water's been on, and it's caused a right mess. So just be aware of that void periods are your biggest problem. If you can put a tenant in and they're there for 8 to 10 years, and there's very nominal increases in rent over that period of time, I would personally prefer that as an investor, rather than being one of these landlords that hikes the prices up every month or every year because they feel that they can, and then run the risk of putting the tenant into an affordability situation, rubbing the tenant up the wrong way, or ultimately having to deal with void periods that cost them all of their profit for the year because they've had the property empty for 1 or 2 months trying to find another tenant. All right. Hope that helps, Damien. Quite a bit of info there for you to digest, but hopefully that will help you with your challenge there with your tenant, and you'll get it sorted. All right. Let us know if we can do anything else to help you. Guys and girls, thank you for all of your amazing questions. Really appreciate you sending them through. As always, if you've got any questions, concerns, comments, feedback, please feed them through to us. The email address is happytohelp@wiggywam.co.uk. That's happytohelp@wiggywam.co.uk. You can also view past webinars and individual questions from past webinars on our website. If you go to wiggywam.co.uk, that's wiggywam.co.uk, and click on the broadcasts section at the top of the menu bar there, you'll get access to all of the previous editions of these webinars that we've done if you're finding them useful and helpful, or if you've got any feedback at all. You can feed that back through us through the website, and you can also, there's options for, depending upon who you are, whether you're an estate agent, conveyancer, removals company, surveyor, any of those people, you can have options to join WiggyWam and join the WiggyWam community and deliver your excellent services to our user database there as well. You can also get in contact with us through Twitter. Our Twitter handle is at WiggyWam_UK. That's at WiggyWam_UK. And as always, we welcome any kind of questions, comments, feedback from our WiggyWam community, you amazing guys and girls out there who are supporting the revolution in the property market. And as always, if you would be so kind as to share this with your friends and family, if you want to invite them to a future webinar in the future, we'd love to see you here live, or by all means, you can share this information with them if they're thinking about moving house. As you know, let them know that we're here as a resource that they can tap into and plug into with any of the questions or concerns that they may have. All right. And don't forget, with Christmas just around the corner, get yourself a copy of Home Buyers Secrets, or pass this on to anybody who you know is looking to move home over the course of the next 12 to 18 months. It's an invaluable resource. Even if I do say so myself, I put my heart and soul into this book. And I firmly believe it's there as a guide to really help and support anybody who's looking to move, to help you negotiate a great deal on your next home, to help protect your interests in terms of things going wrong. And they always do when it comes to buying or selling property. Your entire journey is mapped out within this book, and it's really going to help you. So as I say, homebuyerssecrets.co.uk is the website where you can grab a copy of that book, also get access to the online training course as a point of value for getting that book as well. So thanks ever so much indeed for joining us here, guys. I look forward to seeing you on a future webinar very, very soon indeed. And I'm going to say good night and God bless you all, and look forward to seeing you again soon. All right, you take care. Bye-bye.